Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Dani, and I'm going to be moderating a wonderful talk on whether crypto wallets are working or broken. So I think bear markets really allow us to pause and ask ourselves some hard questions, like how are the essential pieces of our infrastructure functioning? And wallets are the first point of entry for most users into crypto, and we really want to understand whether today they're working to onboard the next million users, the next 10 million, 100 million, billion users. So I have a rock star panel with me today that's really going to tackle these questions. And I actually want to start with something pretty basic, which is you hear a lot of sort of nomenclature being thrown around, around like wallets and browsers in the crypto space. And sometimes your wallet is a browser, and sometimes your browser is a wallet, and sometimes the wallet's just a wallet. But does anyone kind of want to take a quick shot at explaining this to us? Explain it to me like I'm 5. And what is really a crypto wallet?
Anyone?
Yeah, I could take it. So pretty much wallets are a piece of software that you can use for storing the private and public key pairs that for any type of crypto or tokenized asset. And usually the keys are that are stored, the private keys usually are stored on the wallet, and that private key can be used to create a public key pair. So you end up with a private public key pair. And generally, the address where your crypto is stored is actually at the hash of the public key. So as long as you keep the private key inside the wallet, and you don't give anyone access to the wallet, your crypto is safe. Now there are different types of wallets. There's and there are different nomenclature. So they're typically hot wallets and cold wallets. So hot wallets are typically wallets that are online and typically hosted by a third party. The typical Coinbase wallets and other crypto exchanges provide hot wallets. But the problem with those hot wallets is they control and hold the private keys. So they're managing the wallet on your behalf. And if something happens like what just happened last year with FTX, they were able to, since they control the private keys, they were able to temporarily redirect your funds for other activities, and it caused a problem. That's what led to the crash. Cold wallets, on the other hand, are they could be physical wallets. There could be a piece of hardware where the actual private key gets stored in a USB-like device, like a Ledger Nano, or you can print it out on a piece of paper and have your private keys on a piece of paper. So
Okay,
that's
solid. Yeah, I think it's a good overview of a little bit of what they're doing. Maybe Kay, you want to tell me a little bit about what's most exciting to you about the wallet space today and what you think is coming?
Sure. So I think the basic thing is a wallet should be 12 or 24 words in your head. And as long as those words never leave your head, you're 100% safe. So as a security company, that's probably the ideal. What is exciting maybe is that now, people are starting to talk about, account abstraction. Obviously, it's been talked about for a long time, but we're starting to see wallets, and we're auditing wallets that have these features. It's both exciting, but, I think every new feature that you add introduces new attack vectors. And so, the problem really is that the easier it is to use, probably the easier it is to steal your funds as well. And so I think that that's something we need to tackle head on, and that's probably the most exciting thing from a security auditing company standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And Veronica, what do you think is really exciting about wallets today?
I think it's exciting that people are finally talking about wallets nowadays. It's like we started 5 years ago, and 5 years ago, nobody really talks about wallet. Like people question about the existence of wallet even because they said, I have Binance, I have Coinbase, why do I even care? I can trade my assets. Back then, there was no Uniswap, there was no DeFi, there was no DEXs. So there's no whole section of DeFi, decentralized finance back then. So we are happy to see that the market is gradually educated along the way, and people gradually realize the importance of owning a non-custodial Web3 wallets. Because of DeFi, people realize that they need wallet as a login credential, to go to all different DEXs. When NFT came along like 2 years ago, people realized that, oh, I can't really, hold it in my centralized exchange accounts. I need to have a wallet really to hold my NFT valuable belongings. So I think this is kind of a switch of mentality is kind of very exciting because that we are seeing conversations around wallets being more and more popular, like in the top tier events like BUIDL Asia and some other events as well. So this is quite important because like it really takes time for people to be educated and to realize that the importance of holding their own keys and also managing their own funds. What does that even mean? And what does that compare to using Coinbase and all others? I mean, it's okay if they finally fold up, like choose centralized exchanges, but important that they know the differences and they make their own choices. I think it's a fair choice that they're making for themselves, but at least we need to have a fair and open and transparent conversation surrounding the many options out there on the market. And I think this is some of the most exciting kind of things that I'm seeing changing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I remember at WalletCon just a few months ago, I heard there was over 80 projects that showed up that were all building in the wallet space. And if you go back 6 or 7 years, it was like MetaMask and like 5 other people, and like that was the wallet projects, right? Yeah. So it's really great to see it evolve in that way. You made a really good point about people trying to understand what self-custody is like, and so we go into a pretty common phrase in crypto where like every time a centralized exchange gets hacked, people go on Twitter and they say like, not your keys, not your crypto. So like Josh, go.
Yeah, I mean, I have an actual story which is personal. So I bought a little bit of Dogecoin in college, and this was 2014. I found it on subreddit. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool vibe.
Are you saying that you bought Dogecoin early on? Like
I bought like
before Elon got to it?
Yeah, so I bought that the unfortunate thing was I think I only bought like $3 worth of Dogecoin. I stored half of it in a non-custodial wallet, and I stored half of it on a centralized wallet, fully custodial. And today I lost the non-custodial part. I still have the custodial part, so I plan on selling it.
You had the opposite experience.
Yeah, so it's at the end of the day, I think it's realizing that it's humans. On the other side, there's great ideas, great specifications, but you can have the most beautiful, well-crafted, perfect system with no security flaws, but if 99% of the times it's always the humans, and designing a system with practical security in mind,
Human-centric practical security, yeah.
Yeah, more so
Got a
than
new catchphrase.
cool
right there.
ideas, right? Yeah.
Well, I think one thing I want to point out, it's important to note that for the online wallets, the custodial wallets, which is typical, you don't necessarily have to store your exchange like Coinbase. They are specialized wallet, as a service providers that are out there. That's their main job. So they're not using, they're not trading. So you can leverage those tools. And one of the advantages of these type of wallet services, they give you the option to recover your passphrase if you lost it. If you lost it, or if you had to, maybe your computer got wiped and you have to get a new computer or a new phone. And they basically integrate, biometric security, maybe putting your fingerprint and thumbprint or face to kind of help you with recovery. If you're if you're doing a self-custody, it's very hard to do that. And so there are a few companies like Web3 Auth that's, I think you guys, should check out, which...
Yeah, it's the Taurus crew.
Yeah, which offers, they do a pretty good job with that. So...
Yeah. Well, on that note, Charles, you had a good point earlier about how if we're going into mass adoption for hundreds of millions or billions of users, a lot of them are going to be already trusting centralized services, and that their wallets are going to be abstracted away.
Yeah, So, and I think the important thing is if we're trying to onboard the next 1 billion users, we can expect that my grandma is going to learn a seed phrase. She can't even remember where her keys are sometimes. So her regular physical keys. So we already depend upon banks and different companies to kind of protect our funds. So the expectation is if you're onboarding, most of those wallets are going to be custodial. However, it's possible for those companies to leverage other technologies like multi-party computation, where they can take the private key and break up that private key into 3 or more parts and then store it in different digital asset custodies. And it's possible to recreate the private keys by using 2, say if you break it into 3 parts, it's possible to recreate the entire key structure with 2 out of the 3. So, and there might be hybrid solutions where you get to keep one of the strands and the other 2 are stored in different asset custody solutions.
Yeah, that's great. You know, you touched on an interesting point, which is like, we've really heard a lot of talk about the different ways that one can build a wallet and like, you know, what is the preference for one team for another. You mentioned multi-party computation. That's quite a popular one. Another one we hear a lot about that you mentioned recently, Kay, was actually account abstraction. Do you want to talk a little bit about why teams are choosing to use account abstraction to build their wallets?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's about ease of use. It's also about introducing, you know, ways for people to recover their private keys if they lose them. You know, I think account abstraction, I'll give you a couple of examples. One is, you know, making a wallet that actually doesn't necessarily need to own any ETH to pay gas. So gasless transactions, batching transactions, so you're not, you know, clicking, signing each transaction every time you, say, for example, you need to approve a new currency, you need to send some ETH, you need to do this, you need to do that. With account, you know, with transaction batching, you basically sign one transaction at the end, and it's just one click, and you're done. You know, so it's about making the you know, user experience a lot easier, and ultimately you can do also things that a regular bank account might have, which is, hey, if somebody tries to send out more than, say, I don't know, $5,000 worth of ETH, it will trigger some kind of alarm, or it will actually just stop. It would just cap any transaction per 24-hour period, you know, or it might say every time you log off this browser, essentially you need to sign back on, just like you know, a lot of Web 2 apps. All great, all introduces new attack vectors. So, you know, I think there's always a trade-off between, you know, making something that's great and easy to use and fun. If you're gaming, you don't want to be signing transactions every 10 seconds. But, you know, is it the safest way to do it? I still think it's the 12 words in your head.
So let's talk about that. You said fun and easy to use, right, for users. Josh, tell us about fun and easy to use wallets for real humans.
Overcomplicating account abstraction. All account abstraction is you have an account. It's basically like previously, like Asians will get this. We have stamps, right? Like we prove, you know, anything official, you stamp something. But rather than stamping something, you basically have a program that basically say, hey, I'll just delegate all my accounts permission to this program. And if it says yes, it's basically stamping. So rather than you having to stamp it, which is like signing a transaction, you have a smart contract stamping on behalf of you, and you can run programs within it. These programs could be account recovery, automated transactions, batching, whatever. But that's all it is. And you know, I believe that traditionally removing this aspect of humans having to sign all transactions to being able to programmatically create ways that an account could interact on the blockchain is fundamentally game-changing. Obviously, we have issues, but I think the issues are more on how do we get some level of standardization on these apps. And obviously, you're going to have different, you know, security vectors on depending on who is creating these programs. But I do think that like being able to program an account is fantastic. Like it's the largest change that we've had in 10 years.
It also helps make it a lot more intuitive for users, right? Because I remember early days of MetaMask, someone was asking, they're like, it keeps telling me to keep approving this. Is it trying to steal my money? It's like, no, it just needs you to keep signing things. Don't worry. It's like, you know, how many of those are don't worry? How many of those are like, oh, whoa, right
Do I really need to worry?
That issue is like, how do you know the difference, right? So, Veronica, what have you found are some of the ways that like you can make wallets more intuitive for regular users to interact with or play around with?
Building in this space is like carrying a leaking bucket, like because in the very first beginning we were only thinking about like building a non-custodial wallet that is safe and easy to use. But as the time comes by, like there are a lot of fractions in the user experience. For example, fiat on and off ramps. Like the first question that I always got from my friend is that, yo, how am I gonna buy my first ETH? Like, where do I get it, right? Do I do OTC or do I use any other third-party services? These are the questions that never came into our radar previously. And as time comes by, we have to gradually build these small bits and elements into a wallet to make it seamless and useful for people. So it's a whole cycle and loop that we are looking at, while there are a lot of steps in it that have fractions and glitches. So it really takes time. So for example, for account abstraction, actually it's a very exciting topic that we're seeing this year. While we also have a lot of concerns, for example, account abstraction, for example, the main purpose of this AA is really to build a Web3 layer experience similar to a Web2 kind of user experience. That is like, just like you are using your own Citibank, using your own credit card. You kind of swipe and pay without taking a second thoughts. But something special behind crypto is that once you get paid, you find it 100% impossible to retrieve it. So there's no chargeback in the banking system in Web3. So there will be issues when people take full control over, okay, I can fully audit, I can fully control how am I gonna stamp those smart contracts, and then people would need to be a responsible investor to really take control of those. So we feel that user education and also building, of course, easy to use UX would be some of the most challenging kind of topics that wallets are going to see nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good point about really ensuring that user education prevents them for falling maybe for some malicious actors or phishing things. Like, you know not to click on your email links, but it's like, how do you know not to send something to a particular wallet, right? Well, so you brought up an interesting point about, fiat on-ramps being something that was missing. Charles, like, let's look a little bit at this like recent wave of wallet adoption and the mainstream usage that we've really seen across DeFi and NFTs and a lot of Web 2 players launching Web 3 initiatives. Tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about the space and why you've decided to sort of really full-fledged jump into crypto.
So, I mean, at AWS, we work with all sorts of companies, the companies who are in the early startup phase, who are, Web3 focused companies. But we also work with enterprises, airlines, loyalty points, luxury retailers. And all of those companies are adopting tokenization, and they all need wallets. And right now, the current user experience where you have to integrate a MetaMask wallet into your web browser, it doesn't make any sense. We have companies that are, for instance, doing video streaming, like on Netflix, like Netflix, and they're offering, solutions like you get paid for streaming, for watching the show. And but those points are in fact tokens, and they have to provide a wallet infrastructure for it. So imagine if you're trying to integrate MetaMask on your TV screen, that's not...
So is the space you're going into is providing like white labeled wallets for enterprises?
Yeah,
okay.
So we're providing, solutions. So if you go on AWS Solutions Library, they're actually reference architecture on building wallet solutions, account abstraction, using AWS services. Yeah.
Okay, so you're essentially providing the blueprint on how to do this and then using AWS services to power this.
Yes.
Okay, and who's building those? Because I remember the early node deployments for Ethereum needed a little bit of polishing when they launched. So like, what teams are there? Like security teams or auditors that are like going through some of those blueprints that you're suggesting?
Yeah, we have a lot of wallet as a service providers and digital asset custody providers in the financial space, and in areas like in airline miles, for instance, the entire mileage system will eventually become tokens that get stored in a wallet, and you can exchange your miles for instance, you can go on Amazon and exchange your miles for Amazon points and buy whatever you need on Amazon website. So those are examples of use cases that we're seeing beyond just NFTs.
Yeah.
So these are all real world use cases that we're seeing companies looking into.
Awesome, awesome. And then, Kay, I know we're talking a lot about why this wallet layer is really important. Can you tell us what you think, what kind of innovation is missing from the space today?
Ooh.
You can't say security.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything is missing per se, but what I found interesting actually about Veronica's comment about no chargebacks in crypto, you know, maybe not, I'm going to go off the question topic a little bit, but one thing which I am a little bit interested in and what I think is still kind of missing is that, yes, I mean, people use crypto every day. People will use crypto every day. You know, as Charles says, like you'll be managing your airline miles or your, I don't know, your Starbucks coffee points or whatever it might be. And that's fine. Like, you know, if you lose those points, sure, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to kill you. But, you know, I think that the thing that's fundamentally missing is that like operational security and kind of the literacy is still pretty low. And so people are keeping, you know, their $200,000, you know, Bored Ape in a hot wallet. In a browser wallet, and you know they get phished and they cry about it on crypto Twitter, and I still get amazed.
And someone gifts them NFTs. I mean, you know? It's a good cycle, right?
And so you know, just simple things about like having maybe multi-layer wallets where your everyday stuff, you only have a minimal amount of crypto, maybe just to pay gas fees, and you know you're using your daily stuff, and then you have other layers where you can store your more important things, and maybe some way that you can connect all of those together.
Well, so that was another question I was really thinking about was, could you explain to us really the difference between like a hot wallet and a cold wallet from like a security, you know, and trade-offs perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, a hot wallet, you're connected to the internet all the time. And so it might be your browser thing like MetaMask, you know, it might be your Keplr wallet. And you know, the cold wallet is you know, something like Ledger or Trezor, where essentially it's not connected to the internet until you need to use it. But at the point you connect that cold wallet using a USB cable to your computer, it becomes a hot wallet.
Right.
I think many people kind of miss that point. But essentially, this cold wallet should be safer because you need to physically you know, put your PIN code in and approve a transaction on your physical device. And so it's impossible for someone on the end of, you know, somewhere, you know, trying to phish you to actually make a transaction because they don't have access to that physical wallet.
So if I have a hot wallet that I just never use except for like big transactions, is that pretty much the same as having a cold wallet, or is the fact that it's in a hot wallet making it somehow different? Charles?
Yeah, as long as as long as a hot wallet is connected to the internet, then it's open season. I think the model that we see, you know, big companies that have to manage transactions, especially financial services companies, is, you know, they might provide hot wallets for customers, but they don't keep the full amount in that. So they regularly cycle through where they actually, you know, on the back end, move some of those funds into a cold wallet, and that's all done without you having to worry about it. So that way, if somebody were to hack into the hot wallets, they can only get a portion of it. So I think that
you're talking about this sort of like ability to hack at a portion of the hot wallets, but we just had the Ledger, you know, drama coming through saying that you could actually hack into the cold wallets, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think most people here understand what that means. So maybe one of you wants to talk
but
about that.
I think to keep in mind that not all cold wallets are like the Ledger wallets.
Most cold wallets are Ledger wallets, right? At least for regular people who don't have like institutional funds,
Yeah.
right?
But I'm talking from the institutional side, they use other tools like, you know, multi-party computation, and they also use devices like Fireblocks devices.
The corporations are safe, but what about the people?
So yeah, good question. So I think the similar structure needs to be set up, and maybe again, this is all part of the UX design, where you might have MetaMask or an online hot wallet, but there should be a mechanism where the information occasionally asks you to insert your nano wallet to occasionally transfer the wallet. So you, the end user, don't have to worry about it. It's almost like when you have your Windows computer or your Mac, it tells you you have an update. You need to update you need to update. So there ought to be something similar to that will pop up occasionally and remind the end user to insert their nano wallet and
To verify this transaction.
to move some of the crypto off and verify the transactions.
I
That's
think
one way we can look.
I think what Charles shared exactly echoes with some of my viewpoints, because that's exactly what we are seeing users do in our user base. Because right now, like for example, SafePal serves more than 10 million users global wide. Like hardware wallet penetration among the user base is roughly like 10% or even less than that. While these hardware wallet users are keeping the assets more than half of the total, the assets, the wallet balance inside the platform. So that is kind of very interesting insight that Charles shared earlier. While another different opinion that I saw, or data that I saw, is that based on user losing their funds nowadays, it's because we have a customer support team. So based on the data that we collected from end users who claim that they lose their assets every day, actually majority are due to human mistakes. So actually, when you talk about innovation, like Dani, I think like the most important thing here, I think, is that people lack, understanding of what it even means before they install their MetaMask. So we don't lack innovation in such an early stage of Web3, but we lack user education and guidance, because most of the time people hop in MetaMask and hop in whatever decentralized applications without a second thought, because they thought that this is just another regular application, but you can lose money in if you don't make wise, smart choices. So these are some of the elements that are missing, either on the product level, either on the UX level, or either on any preliminary kind of first step when people start to buy their first Bitcoin. So these are some of the big problems that we're seeing nowadays.
Awesome. Yeah, this takes us back, Josh, to what you said about it being a human problem, right?
Yeah, and I guess I really want to point this out because I think a lot of the issues with wallets are like, the issue stems from we are not phrasing what wallets are correctly. Wallets they have multiple functions, but primarily it's a way to store keys, and it's a way to sign transactions, and then it's an application interface. These three things are very different things. I don't think you should be calling ledgers hardware wallets. It's just hardware keys, right? And you sign it through a wallet. So it could be a cold storage, and MetaMask, is not storing that key. That ledger key is just the offline cold, key. It's not a wallet. So I think there needs to be some like clarification around that. And and then people are like, it's like, oh, wallets are so hard to use, because I think people aren't realizing that like wallets are many things, right? Like now Uniswap added a sidebar where you can send money, which traditionally you only could do on MetaMask. So like, does Uniswap's front end become a wallet? And it's like, maybe, sort of, because it's serving the application interface layer of that wallets, right? So I think being able to categorize these features in different layers within the wallet stack, I think, is key.
I think one other thing I would like to say, I mean, I can't say this enough. We talked about this earlier. Your seed phrase is what you use to create the master key, and so please always ensure that you store your seed phrase. Take it seriously. It's not, it's very, very important for you to
listen to Charles. I've lost too many wallets.
Your seed phrase is very important, and I think coming up with better ways to provide storage of that seed phrase, is very important. I think that will also help.
That's a really good point, and it takes me into the next question, which is like, how can the wallet experience be made easier for newbies?
I can take that. I think one of the reasons why I think account abstraction is cool is in crypto, you always try to get rid of single points of failure. And typically, we've had this idea of one seed phrase, one private key, one public key, and that's your account. And what account abstraction can do is, you sort of have an account, but you can have multiple keys, and you can programmatically assign, hey, I would like 4 keys for me to, send a 200K Bored Ape. I would like to require a very low security. Maybe it's just me doing, I don't know, like thumb press on or Face ID to send $20. Like, being able to program these things provides a pathway for these kind of cool things to happen. In terms of what we're building, do I expect my grandma to use my wallet? No, that's not who we're building for. We just want to make sure that the advanced users have what they need, because I think that's what it takes for that 1 billion users to exist. I don't think that exists yet. We're not in the business of building wallets for my grandmas and grandpas. Like, we're starting with the degens. Let them have
Starting at the
fun,
beginning.
and eventually
Well,
they'll
I
come
mean,
along.
the grandmas and grandpas are the ones, especially the boomers, are the ones that have the most wealth. So
Yeah, that's
so
fine.
like, but I think
Love it.
also biometric is also another
Well,
area.
let me
Yeah.
ask this because we have a minute left, so I'm going to do a lightning round. But essentially, I'm asking each one of you if you can change one thing about how ecosystem or wallets work today that would set us up better for mainstream adoption. What would that be? Veronica, go. Lightning.
Oh, I want to change that. Everyone, before they buy their first crypto, they take a lesson or something. Or they get verified whether, just like you open a bank account and the bank is going to, verify whether you're a qualified investor, something like that. We feel that this is quite interesting, and maybe that some institutions should really think about that, like educational elements built in before people really rush in. Because like the gold digging kind of cycle that we are seeing nowadays in Web3 is kind of like people losing mind over those. So it's quite important that people come back to rationale and really think about like the access security and how to really protect them. And these take some learning curves, and these take some time for them to grab the knowledge and then really understand what's behind the scenes. And of course, as wallet builders, we make it easy for you to use, but fundamentally it's still on chain. So it means that like it's still on chain. So
Education.
and yeah, and people need to know that. People know that how it works. So I think something I would need to really want to change is that, of course, we are doing that in our wallet already, and we want to shout out to all other builders. If you are ever onboarding users, think about the educational elements. So try to explain them as they use the product. So that would be easier. And better point is that they don't come back to you for trouble if they lose their seed phrase, because like you gradually guide them through the process. And so they're a better educated user who can better, easier engage with the products, which is a healthy cycle loop that I see.
Fantastic.
think
Charles, lightning round. I know we're going to dash over.
Yeah, I'm gonna be short and brief. I think ideally we need to. I agree with her on the education piece, but I think there ought to be additional functionality to help with seed phrase storage. So I mean, today I store my seed phrases on LastPass, which itself just got hacked recently. So a single UX that can store both the seed phrase and the wallets would be something that would be helpful. Maybe with biometric.
I would like that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once it's game over in crypto, it's game over. Like there is no do-over. There's no extra lives, no extra credits. You're done. So that's it. Take it seriously.
Take it seriously.
Economic incentives. I think all the economic incentives point towards building on-chain applications, launching protocols. Very little is pointed at building user-facing software, tooling, libraries, and things like that. And unless that changes, you can have all the best apps, but no one to use it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.